This is going to upend quite a bit of convention in the Middle East. I'm not sure what Israel thinks about having the same firepower as Saudi Arabia, but should we assume that Congress is okay with this and that this deal is done?
I don't think we should assume that. This was an announcement of an intent to sell. And when you think about the last time the United States said it was going to sell F-35s to an Arab military, it was the United Arab Emirates. It was before the Abraham Accords. And the sale of those F-35s was linked to normalizing ties with Israel. Of course, the UAE did normalize ties with Israel, and then it didn't get those F-35s. In this case, Trump is delinking the sale of F-35s from normalizing ties with Israel. And of course, there's this U.S. commitment to uphold Israel's military edge in the region. And we just saw that at play in the 12-day war with Iran. And so how Trump balances his commitment to Israel's military edge while selling those F-35s remains to be seen.
The other big part of this deal had to do with AI and then chip sales in particular, both of the U.S. getting investment and also some advanced chips going to Saudi Arabia. What does this enable in terms of both countries being able to boost their AI power?
It's really significant. So what's very clear is that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and his Vision 2030, which is really extraordinary vision for broad economic and social change in the Saudi Arabia, believes that he needs to be an AI leader. And to do that, he wants to partner with the United States. The United States look at Saudi Arabia, land space area for data centers, for energy production, for what we need for the future of AI. And as they are leaning towards each other to set the standards for the next phase of this emerging technology landscape.
If China can't get Blackwell chips, why should Saudi Arabia?
This is a big question. What we know is that President Trump is very keen on getting these chips to his Gulf partners. He made an announcement about doing this for the UAE during his presidential trip, and now Saudi Arabia. So he is leaning in and saying, these are trusted partners, and we are going to cooperate with them. They want to be leaders in AI. They want to be leaders with chips and semiconductors. We would prefer that they work with us rather than China, and I think that's the gamble that Trump and his team are taking.
Both on F-35s and with the chips, as you mentioned, there are export controls because of these security concerns that have been longstanding. Are there risks here that outweigh the benefits of these deals?
I think there are always risks, and that is part of what we are doing inside Washington and the U.S. government right now is thinking through the risk tolerance of how you work with partners, how you have a discussion about creating a trusted technology ecosystem so that we can have confidence that our cutting-edge technology is protected with these partners. And that's the discussion we're having right now. It's why it took so long to get to those chips for the UAE and why these negotiations have been so extensive with Saudi Arabia.
We heard a lot about military hardware today, economic cooperation. We didn't hear a lot about human rights, although a couple of reporters attempted to bring this up. One of them, Mary Bruce at ABC News, was called by the president to be a terrible person, an insubordinate, and a terrible journalist for asking about the likes of Jamal Khashoggi. What did you make of the president's response, saying that he was disliked by a lot of people?
I think, first of all, Trump said a lot of things today in the Oval Office. A lot of that suggests that he didn't quite read the declassified CIA report. I think two things can be true at the same time. On the one hand, it was a heinous, atrocious, despicable act, the murder of a Washington Post journalist. And what we know is that the leadership of Saudi Arabia and Mohammed bin Salman has apologized for it, attempted to change approach, and put new measures in place inside the kingdom. And at the same time, there has been a shift in thinking here in Washington that despite concerns about human rights and despite these things, we still need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, and that for our economic security and our national security, it is better off figuring out how to work forward in a strong partnership with Saudi Arabia.
We saw that shift in thinking really on display. We went from a fist bump under Biden to a, really full-throated embrace here. What do you anticipate, of the relationship that Trump has started to lay out here? What will just last through the Trump years, and what could conceivably extend further?
First of all, today is another step in continuity. So from the first Trump administration, think about President Biden in the campaign calling Mohammed bin Salman a pariah to only 18 months later going, of course, there was the fist bump, but there was a sweeping communique that he signed that laid out an expansive vision for a big, broad partnership with Saudi Arabia. So both Biden and now Trump have reached the same conclusion, which is that we want to have this partnership. What remains to be determined, I think, is the F-35s aren't going to be delivered in 3 years of President Trump's administration. Executive orders can be changed in future administrations. And so both of them will have to demonstrate the value added to both peoples and both countries of the enhanced agreements we're seeing signed today and tomorrow.
We've already referenced U.S. policy toward Israel. That helps Israel maintain an edge when it comes to the military hardware that we're providing over all other nations in the Middle East. It appears that policy is changing. And following the conversation that was had in the Oval Office today, when you consider the idea of normalizing relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel, what's Benjamin Netanyahu thinking tonight?
I think he's nervous. This is a case where President Trump is more aligned with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia than he is with Netanyahu. We heard MBS say today, I do want to be in the Abraham Accords, but I also want a path to Palestinian statehood. And this is exactly what Israel and Netanyahu's governing coalition appear to be opposed to. It was in that Security Council resolution that was opposed or was passed just the other day. And so there's a possibility of some real tension between the United States and Israel going forward.
China, of course, was not involved in today's meeting or talks, but the specter of China really looms large over all of these deals. How much, did Trump's meeting just a couple weeks in Asia matter and influence the decisions and announcements we saw today?
I think China, you're right, was overlaying everything. And what is clear is that in an increasingly competitive global system, what Washington wants is Saudi Arabia and its partners in the Middle East on its side. Trump did talk about in the Oval Office the ways in which he's working towards success in managing the relationship with China. But of course, the more the United States throws down and makes a global integrated trade and these sorts of issues or tariffs on our partners difficult, we're going to push our partners towards China. And so this is a balancing act. And whether or not Trump is taking guidance from his team, I think remains to be seen.